There is a list of names on this scroll that your Bible does not contain. 20 names, 20 angels who came down out of heaven before the flood, and every single one of them handed the human race a secret it was never meant to hold. Tonight, I am going to rank all 20 of them, from the least dangerous to the most dangerous, in the exact order of how much ruin their gift poured into this world, because one of these 20 is the reason the flood came. One of them corrupted almost the entire earth by himself, and when the old scribes copied this scroll, they scratched at his name, as if scraping away the ink could undo what he had already set loose on us. It did not work. I still have the name, and by the time we reach number 1, you will understand exactly why heaven did not kill him. Heaven buried him alive, hand and foot, under a mountain of jagged rock, and left him in the dark to wait for the end of the world. So do not look away, because the higher we climb this list, the closer it gets to the exact world you are living in tonight. The weapons, the drugs, the thing you check your future in, they all have a name on this scroll. Let us begin the count. The scroll and the 21st, understand that this list is real, and it did not come from a church. The oldest copy of it was pulled out of a clay jar in a cave above the Dead Sea, written in Aramaic, older than Christianity itself. It is the Book of Enoch, and its 6th chapter does what your Bible never does. It names them. 200 angels came down on the peak of Mount Hermon and swore a blood oath to take the daughters of men. But 200 is a mob, and a mob has officers. The text names the 20 chiefs who led them, the ringleaders of the most catastrophic desertion in the history of heaven. And then the 8th chapter writes down what each one taught us, not vague sin, a curriculum of forbidden knowledge, with a name carved next to every subject. So I am going to rank those 20 by one brutal measure, not their rank in heaven, how much damage their gift did to the human race once it got loose, from the least dangerous, all the way up to the one whose name they tried to erase. We start at the bottom of the list, the ones who opened the sky. At the bottom of the list are the watchers who taught humanity to look up. A watcher named Sariel taught men the secret courses of the moon, how to track it and divide the year by it. Shamsiel taught the signs of the sun. Ezekiel taught the knowledge of the clouds, how to read a coming storm in the color of the sky before it broke. Arachiel taught the signs of the earth itself, and Kokabiel sat with men under the open night and taught them the constellations, how to carve the cold stars into pictures, and names, and meaning. Now stop and ask why any of that is even a crime. It sounds like astronomy, it sounds like a gift, and that is exactly why these watchers rank at the very bottom. But understand what truly happened on that mountain. Before these watchers came down, a human being who wanted to know the season or the storm or what was coming over the horizon had only one place to look, up to the one who hung the sun and the moon and every star. These angels cut out the middle. They handed men a way to read the heavens directly, to predict and to calculate and to plan, without ever once bending the knee to the God who built them. They did not teach murder. They taught independence from heaven, dressed up as knowledge. It is the smallest sin on this list, and it is also the seed that every other sin above it grew out of. Because once a creature believes it can read the heavens without God, it is only a matter of time before it believes it can do anything without God. So they sit at the bottom, dangerous but quiet. They corrupted the mind, not yet the body, and there were more of them than these 5. The scroll names the rest of the 20 as officers of the descent, chiefs of tens who led the 200 down the slope of Hermon. But the ones whose specific gift the text records by name are the ones we can rank. So keep climbing, because the next watcher stopped teaching men to read the world and started teaching them to break it open. Uriur, the locksmith and the forger of lies above the sky. Watchers sits one named Armaros, and what he taught is so strange most people read straight past it. The text says Armaros taught mankind the resolving of enchantments, the breaking of spells, the undoing of things that were bound. Think about what that means in the world of this book. There are doors here that are shut on purpose, locks placed by heaven, seals that were never meant to be touched. Armaros handed humanity the key. He taught men how to unbind what was bound, how to break a seal that was placed to protect them from what was on the other side. Every watcher below him taught men to observe the world. Armaros taught them to reach into the machinery and unlock the parts that were meant to stay locked forever. He was the first to turn knowing into power. He was the locksmith of hell, and just above him sits a name from the later pages of this same book, a watcher called Penemu. Penemu taught mankind the bitter and the sweet, and he taught them to write with ink upon paper. And the text says something chilling about this gift. It says that through this knowledge, many have gone astray. from eternity to eternity, even to this day. Because writing is not only how you record the truth, it is how you record a lie and make it outlive you. It is how a single deception can travel 1,000 years and poison men who were not even born when it was first spoken. The locksmith opened the doors. The forger taught us to write lies on the walls, but neither of them ever spilled a drop of blood. The top of this list did. Number 5, the one who stole the future. At number 5 is the watcher Barachiel, and Barachiel taught astrology. You might think I just contradicted myself because did I not bury the star watchers at the bottom? I did, but there is a razor-thin line between them, and Barachiel stands on the wrong side of it. The watchers at the bottom taught men to read the sky. Barachiel taught men to read their fate in the sky. He took the cold stars and turned them into a god. He told humanity that the hour you were born, the position of the planets, the alignment of the heavens decides who you are, who you will love, and how you will die. He invented destiny without God. He invented the horoscope. He invented every fortune teller, every star chart, every single person who has ever scanned the sky to ask what is going to happen to me, instead of trusting the one who actually holds tomorrow in his hand. That is why he is number 5 and not number 19. Because the gift of Barachiel did not die in the ancient world. It is in your phone right now. It is printed in the newspaper. It is the most successfully smuggled forbidden art in all of human history, and almost nobody alive knows that it was first whispered into a human ear by a fallen angel on a mountain. He stole the future from God and sold it back to us as a daily horoscope. But he still only corrupted what men believed. The watchers above him corrupted what men did, and what men did with their own bodies. Number 4, the one who poisoned the well. Number 4, and here the list turns dark in a way that is hard to come back from. There is a watcher in the later chapters of Enoch named Kazdeja, and the text lists what he showed the children of men, and it reads like a catalog of every quiet evil that has ever haunted the human race. It says he showed them the smitings of spirits and demons, the bite of the serpent, the blow that strikes a man down in the heat of noon for no reason he can see, and the smiting of the child in the womb, that it may pass away. Read that last one again. Before the watchers, death came for a man on a battlefield or in his bed. Kazdeja taught the human race how to make death small and quiet and invisible, how to end a life that had not even begun, how to strike at the soul instead of the body. He did not teach men to fight. He taught them to poison the well and walk away while the village died slow. Every silent, hidden, deniable evil that you cannot point to and name, the thing in the food, the thing in the cup, the curse that works in the dark, traces back to the gift of this one watcher. He is number 4 because he made evil untraceable, but he acted alone. The number 2 on this list organized everything, and the number 1 is the reason all of them came down at all. Number 3. The leader number 3 is the watcher named Semjaza, and he sits this high for one reason that has nothing to do with what he taught. Semjaza is the reason any of this happened. Go back to the mountain. The 200 did not fall on their own. The text says it was Semjaza who was their chief. It was Semjaza who first proposed the descent, and it was Semjaza who was so afraid of being blamed alone that he forced all 200 of them to swear the binding oath together on Hermon, so that no single one of them could lose his nerve and crawl back to heaven. Every crime on this entire list, all 20 of them, every weapon and every poison and every stolen secret, happens because Semjaza organized the rebellion and sealed his soldiers to it. He is the architect. Without Semjaza, the other 19 never leave their stations, and not one of these gifts ever touches the earth. And he was not only the manager, he was a teacher too. The 8th chapter says Semjaza taught enchantments and the cutting of roots. The cutting of roots is the polite, ancient way of saying he taught mankind to reach into a living plant and tear its power out, to brew the potion, to mix the drug that bends the mind. The ancient word for this craft was pharmakia, and you can hear our word pharmacy hiding inside it, and it is the very same word the Bible later translates as sorcery. He gave us the spell and the drug in one hand, and the entire dark rebellion in the other. He should be higher. There is only one reason he is not, because heaven itself named someone worse. Number 1. Azazel. Number 1, the most dangerous of all 20, the name they tried to scrape off this scroll, Azazel. When you read what Azazel taught, you understand instantly why heaven treated him differently than all the rest combined. He taught 2 things, and between them they broke the world in half. First, he taught men to make weapons. The text is specific, and it is chilling. Azazel taught the making of swords, and knives and shields and breastplates of war. He taught them to tear metal out of the ground and beat it into a blade. Before Azazel, a man who hated another man had his 2 hands and a rock, and that was the limit of the harm he could do in a day. After Azazel, he had a sword, forged for the single purpose of opening another human being from the inside. Azazel did not teach men to kill. Men already knew that. Azazel taught men to kill efficiently, at scale, with tools built for nothing else. He handed the human race the technology of slaughter, and the earth, the text says, filled up with blood from one end to the other. And then, in the very same breath, he turned to the women, and he taught them beauty as a weapon. He taught them to darken their eyes with antimony, to set the precious stones, to mix the dyes and the tinctures, to turn the human face and body into a trap that could capture and command any man who looked too long. War for the men, seduction for the women, the blade and the painted eye, both handed down by one angel, in one lesson on one night. He weaponized killing, and he weaponized desire, and between the two of them, they hollowed the human heart out from both sides at once. Look at the world you live in, the wars and the weapons, the vanity and the lust sold back to you on every screen. Both of those rivers start at the feet of this one watcher, and here is the single line that ends this entire ranking and settles it forever. In the 10th chapter, when heaven finally moves to judge the watchers, God does not spread the blame evenly across the 20. He says one sentence that nails Azazel to the top of this list for all time. He says the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. And then 5 words, to him ascribe all sin, all of it, not a share of it, all of it. Heaven itself sat down and ranked these 20 watchers, and heaven put Azazel at number 1 alone above every other name. That is why his punishment was not like the others. The rest of the watchers were chained under the hills. But for Azazel, God commands the archangel Raphael to seize him, to bind him hand and foot, to tear open a pit in the desert in a place the text names Dudael, to hurl him down into the darkness, and to pile rough and jagged rocks on top of him, and to leave him there, not for a year, not for 1,000 years, until the day of the great judgment, when he is finally thrown into the fire. He was not executed. He was buried alive, bound in the black, waiting. And the scribes who copied this scroll scratched at his name, because some part of them believed that if they could erase the 4 letters, they could keep the lid on the pit. The world these 20 built now, step back and look at what all 20 of them together actually did to the earth, because the ranking is only half the horror. These angels did not only teach, they took wives, and those women bore children, and the children were not human and not angel, they were giants. The 7th chapter says they grew to a monstrous size, and they ate everything men could grow and raise until there was nothing left. And when the food ran out, the giants turned on mankind itself and began to devour them, and then to drink the blood, and to consume one another. And it was not only men they ruined. The same chapter says the giants began to sin against the birds, and the beasts, and the things that creep, and the fish, and to eat one another's flesh and drink the blood from it. Every line God had ever drawn between one kind and another was being torn down at the same time. That is the world these 20 watchers built in a single generation. Not a garden gone wrong, a slaughterhouse with no walls, where the strong ate the weak, and the locked secrets of heaven were for sale to anyone cruel enough to pick them up. Picture that world honestly. Weapons had just been invented. Poison had just been invented. The future was being sold by the stars. And giants were eating the population while every secret that was supposed to stay locked in heaven ran loose in the hands of the desperate and the cruel. The 9th chapter shows you the view from above. The faithful archangels, Michael and Gabriel and the others, are standing at the windows in the floor of heaven, looking down at what the watchers built, and what they see is the whole earth filled with blood and with violence. And they hear something rising up through the storm, the souls of the murdered crying out, the sound of the dying going up to the gates of heaven and never stopping. And the archangels turn to God, and they ask him the only question left. How long are you going to watch this and do nothing? The judgment, heaven finally answered, and the answer came down with names. Gabriel was sent against the giants, and told to set them against each other so that they would tear themselves apart in their own war. Michael was sent to bind Semjaza and the rest of the watchers, to lock them under the hills for 70 generations until the day of their judgment. And Raphael was sent for the one at the top of the list, for Azazel, to bind him hand and foot and bury him in the pit at Dudael, alive in the dark where he still is. And then the flood was sent to scrub the surface of the planet clean. The water rose and it drowned the giants, and it washed the blood off the face of the earth. It should have been the end. It was not, because the flood could only kill what had a body, and the worst thing the watchers made did not have one. The danger. The flood could not drown here is what should put a cold hand on the back of your neck. The flood drowned the giants. But the 15th chapter says that when those hybrid bodies died, their spirits had nowhere to go. They could not rise to heaven, because they were born of flesh. They could not rest in the earth because they were born of spirit. So they stayed here, on the surface, with us. The text gives them their name. It calls them the evil spirits, and it says they would afflict and oppress and attack and tempt the children of men and never rest until the very end of the age, and then give them the other name, the one every culture on earth would later use for them without ever knowing where it came from. Demons, the thing that whispers in the dark hour, the weight on the chest at 3 a.m, the voice that tells a man to do the thing he swore he never would. The Book of Enoch is telling you that the demonic was not always here. It was manufactured, on a mountain, by the orphaned spirits of the children of 20 angels who broke a single oath, and it has been hunting the sons of men ever since, because the text says, we are the closest thing left to the flesh those spirits lost in the flood. So understand what this scroll is actually telling you. The flood washed away the bodies. It could not wash away what the 20 watchers taught, because we are still teaching it to each other, and it could not wash away the spirits they left walking among us, because the text says they are still here. And Azazel, the one heaven blamed for all of it, was never released. He is bound, in the dark, under the rocks of that desert pit, waiting for the day of judgment. Which means, if this book is telling the truth, the most dangerous being on this entire list is not a story from the past. He is a prisoner in the present, still bound, still waiting, still number 1. Close and hook forward. So that is the list. 20 watchers, ranked from the ones who only taught us to read the stars, all the way up to the one heaven itself blamed for all the sin in the world and buried alive in the sand of Dudael. But this scroll does not end with Azazel in the pit. It tells us what is supposed to happen on the day those rocks are finally lifted. It tells us what comes out of that desert prison when the seal at last breaks, and who the text says will be standing there waiting when it does. That is the next page of this scroll, and what it describes climbing out of that pit is worse than every name on this list put together. So tell me one thing before you go. Out of all 20, do you agree that Azazel earned the number 1 spot? If you do, write the name Azazel in the comments so I know you saw what heaven saw. Subscribe to the Buried Testament, and I will keep reading you the names they buried in the clay, one scroll at a time, because they scratched at his name to make us forget him, and every video I am writing it back.